Shalom, meaning peace. Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem. Peace be upon you. Just a month ago, precisely on the 7th of October of the current Gregorian year 2023, I was shattered by the heartbreaking news that a group of individuals, even identifying themselves with a community, namely Hamas, broke through into Israel, killing some 1,400 people and abducting more than 200 individuals and holding them hostage. Even today, a month later. Since that moment, Israel began, the state of Israel, retaliating in self-defense. No doubt, retaliation in self-defense is justified, even befitting Article 51 of the UN Charter. And no state can be blamed for defending its own people, its own citizens, its own nationals, and even its own territory, which is most certainly recognized even by the United Nations organization as a whole. Bloodshed continues. According to BBC, and my apologies, but a single moment, I crave leave to pause. According to BBC news broadcasting channels, and even Deutschlandfunk, the German news broadcasting channel, some 10,000 people have died since that moment, alone on the side of Gaza. Many people, perhaps a large population of the world, are raising the question whether such a war is justified. That question no doubt also crossed my mind. I always maintained on various occasions, particularly when I telecast on Remembrance Sundays of many past years, a war can never be justified because the people, including the citizens of the country or the state which prosecutes the war, die. And nothing can replace those lives. Alas, the world perhaps will never learn a simple fact that there is much to gain in peace than in violence. Only last month, while speaking out against various types of injustice prevailing in our world, particularly on the birthday of late Mahatma Gandhi, I referred to him as a shining light or a shining lamp of of the 20th century, even though he was born already in the 19th century. He always spoke out against injustice and sacrificed his own interests in order to pursue and in order to enhance natural justice and equity. He was not the only one in the world, and perhaps not the only one who are still alive today, who believe that peace can achieve far greater goal than violence can ever do. But can we blame a country which prosecutes a war in defense of its own people against the aggressors? I think not. Several years earlier, even on the so-called the 11th of September, a day known as 9/11, particularly on the minds of the people of the United States of America and its alliance, and the friends of the United States of America, also called 9/11. Only a few years later, we also suffered on a similar occasion when terrorists killing indiscriminately people of various communities and nations who were guests in our country, India, even those who were very briefly, on an ad hoc basis, staying in a hotel called Taj Bengal, or Taj, I should say. And this was in the state of Bombay, Mumbai. Terrorists don't belong to any communities. They do not belong to any nation. They do not belong to human race as a whole, or I should say the human race. Even the human race, by emphatically pointing out towards this race of humanity. If they did, they would possess humanity. They would not slaughter people indiscriminately, even following the worst kind of atrocities which may rise upon the mind of any reasonable human being. Only a few days from now onwards, we shall remember the victims of the two devastating wars known as the First and the Second World Wars. We, the members of Commonwealth, many of us, will be laying wreaths at certain places, perhaps in churches, in squares, in other public places, remembering the sacrifices made by those who risked their lives and even sacrificed their lives in order to protect many of us, perhaps most of us, against dictators, against tyrants, against inhumane beings who falsely claim to be human beings. The war in Eastern Europe was bad enough. it was not necessary for any group, including Hamas, to begin a new war in the Middle East if they truly believed in humanity. They would not initiate such a situation, knowing on reasonable accounts even of their past experiences that the outcome would not be positive. It would be positive neither for them nor for their people whom they claim to be their people, and perhaps even those whom they believe to belong to their brotherhood. The situation is not merely pathetic, not merely tragic, not merely heartbreaking, but inhumane as a whole. Yes, as a state, Israel is most certainly justified in prosecuting the war. But I crave leave to look back into the history of Israel for a single moment. The name Israel was not initially a name of any human being. The grandson of Abraham, or perhaps Avraham, received this name when he was returning from the house of his maternal uncle back to his parental home. When, according to the sacred Torah or the Holy Bible, someone appeared and fought with him, and when that fighter could not prevail against Jacob or Yaakov, he touched the hollow of his hip, and Jacob became a limping person. Yet Jacob caught hold of the feet of the other fighter and said, with all due respect, if I may quote the expression, translating it into English, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." And the fighter asked Jacob what his name was. And when he replied by saying Jacob or Yaakov, he said, "Your name shall no longer be Yaakov or Jacob, but Israel." Someone who fought with man and God, prevailed and was supposed to be in peace. On Sabbath we exchange greetings by saying Shabbat Shalom. And if I'm not wrong, one of the meanings of the word Shalom means peace. When shall we recognize the value of peace? Yes, Jacob, becoming Israel, ensured that his sons, 12 sons, would be brought up in the holy fear, in the awe of the Almighty God, by keeping his commandments and his statutes. When son Joseph of his, or I should say, the son who was born by his wife Rachel, or Rachel in English, the eldest one, was sold by his own brothers into Egypt, or I should say, to the Ishmaelites who took him to Egypt. Jacob thought everything was lost. He would go down to the Shiloh But that was not the end. The Almighty ensured that his sons, all of his 12 sons, would survive and would become tribes of Israel. Yes, the promise was given to Abraham, to Isaac or Isaac, to Jacob or Israel, that the land which is known as Israel today would be theirs. But God the Almighty also commanded them to keep his statutes, his laws, his most sacred laws, even based upon humanity. One of the commandments he gave to his people was that none would be discriminated. Both the native and the alien would have one and the same law. But God being the supreme judge, even as called by Abraham, when 3 angels came to his tent at Mamre near the oak, and after departure of the 2, when the Almighty revealed to Abraham what he was about to do in destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah in English. Abraham took upon himself most respectfully to cross-examine the Almighty by raising the question, and if I may be forgiven for again quoting this in English, will you destroy the whole place if there are 50 righteous individuals are found there? Far be it from the judge, the true judge of the world. And the Almighty replies he would spare the place if 50 were found there. Abraham did not give up, but continued cross-examining the Almighty with all due respect and regards. Let not the Lord be angry, he said. Suppose there are 40 are found. And the Almighty replies by saying, I would spare the place for the sake of 40. It comes down to 30, 20, even 10. And the Almighty agrees to spare those places of Sodom and Gomorrah if even 10 righteous individuals were found there. My question to the people, the firstborn son of the Almighty, whom he called in Egypt, when he sent the prophet Moses and Moshe to challenge Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, saying, Israel is my firstborn. My question to the very firstborn son of God the Almighty, should we not spare the place if 10 righteous were found there? Are we greater and more righteous than our Creator himself? If our Creator, who was the holiest of the holiest, the most sacred of all, infallible, faultless, the most superior of all, the supreme over all, were ready to spare a place for the sake of 50 or 40 or 30 or 20 or even 10. Should we not sow and show mercy towards the righteous then? Should we not spare the lives of the innocent and destroy not the innocent along with the guilty? This is a question I most respectfully raise upon my own mind the mind of my fellow global citizens, even most respectfully among the minds of His Most Excellency, the Honourable President of Israel, the Honourable Prime Minister of Israel, the Honourable Members of the Cabinet of Israel. I most respectfully regard Israel as the most important state of the world. And no doubt, nobody would be better pleased than I myself if Israel were not violated. But are we justified in destroying the innocent with the guilty? This is what I am obliged to say. With all due pains in my heart, while bidding all of you shalom, peace. From my country, India, where it is already the 7th of November of the current Gregorian year 2023. Once again, Shalom Aleichem. Peace be upon you, and Lehi Tov.